Hello, all. I got cut off in my first video, so this will be really short as I just wrap up explaining this assignment. In fact, I'm going to just kind of go over it so it's not as rushed here again. But basically, you just go straight through this worksheet. It's very self-explanatory and very basic. You basically are just filling in the sections. But in this first spot, you're just marking the date you read it, the Jonah reading. Read it 5 times, 5 different versions. Again, you can you only have to read it aloud once. You can use these other you can use Bible Gateway and some of these others links if you would like it just to be read to you while you're studying or doing something else. But the point is that you're going to have it read to you or read it 5 times in 5 different versions. 2 of the versions can be those non-literal versions like the Message Bible, and the others are going to be literal. And so you're going to identify which Bible version of each time, and then which one you read aloud. Hopefully, you have to read at least one. So check which ones. If you did it all 5 aloud, check all 5 times. Now, the second part is the historical background worksheet. While it looks short, you can write in here, and you can see like it keeps getting bigger if you look over here. So it may spread into a second page here, but essentially you're going to answer the 5 questions below. These questions here are just put over here. Okay, so in terms of checking it off, you don't actually have to do this part. This can kind of be for it's kind of set up for grading purposes, although when I do the grading, I'm just going to probably write it right into Blackboard. But so the point is that you're filling it this sheet, and you want to look at what the acceptable tools are to do this study. So in the handbook for interactive Bible study, that's on page 49 to 52. So you'll see there what the proper tools, when it asks you what Bible study tools, at least 1 book and 2 internet sources, how do you find them? What are they? You need to use that, and then mention questions like, what have you never used before? What did you learn about the tool? And that sort of thing. So here's what you want to do. Okay, author, who wrote the book? You need to write it in here. Some people just think that this isn't, you don't answer this, you just answer this. But you need to answer it. I would as I'm actually thinking about that, as long as you answer it in here, you're answering this question, author, who wrote the book? Internal evidence and external evidence. What does that mean? Internal evidence means, is there something in the book of Jonah that gives you the idea that Jonah wrote the book, or someone else did? Did someone else write the book of Jonah? And are there any verses in the book or in other books of the Bible where you would be supporting with references to those scriptures of who wrote the book? All right. Now, external evidence, you need to document what those sources are, but that would be, is there any historical idea, or if you're reading in some other source of a scholar or some other qualified person who's making an argument based on some other means beyond Scripture of who would have written the book of Jonah, and then the recipients, to whom was it written, same thing. You're filtering it through the same process. Are there any internal evidences, such as in Scripture, or external evidences, which is outside? So if you're finding it clearly in the Scripture, I'd still like to see if you can find external evidence, but if you can say none or not necessary. But if it's you can't find any internal evidence, anything you can show, even if you can't find external evidence, anything you can show, like scholars say that there is no solid, reliable resources that would state this. Some guess at XYZ, something of that nature, where you can show that you've done some research, found what people have said. Even if you don't have a concrete 100% reliable answer, you should still be able to demonstrate that you've done the research and found why people are saying that there's no reliable data to answer one or more of these questions. Hopefully that makes sense. Okay, so You're going to answer who wrote the book, to whom was the book written, so support it with scripture and or external evidence. Location, from where was the book written, like the place, the city, the country, what geographical locations are found in the book, and what do you know about them. So again, obviously you're not writing in here. These are all coming in here. All that to say is you don't need to write anything in here as long as you are writing in here. I think I was confusing on that at the beginning. Make sure you're answering this question, and this question. You're all answering those questions here, and of course, when you're answering from scripture, from the text, the tone's going to be different. The dynamics different than when you're saying that this scholar. So if you're saying, Moses said this versus Dr. Jones said this, it's a different dynamic. But the point is that you're understanding the different types of evidence, the internal and the external. See what we're doing here with the historical background? Okay. Location, we just mentioned that. And then the date, when was the book written? What other world events were occurring at this time? So that's an interesting one. And why is that important? That's not just to show that you found the answer. This is because whenever you start to study, if you're going to sit down and study the book of Jonah, it doesn't just show, hey, it was written in such and such a year. I'm smart. The point is that you're putting it into a context. So even when you're teaching it to someone, have you ever gone to a museum and some incredibly bright but potentially not that exciting person gives you all this data about when this artifact was discovered or when it was from, and in this year of 1772, blah, 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 until you realize, or it has some context of why that's important. They can rattle off a million dates, and most people, myself included, are like, I don't care what year that was. But if they say, during the time of this king, when all the people were living in abject poverty and oppression, and it was commonplace for families to be drinking blood to supplement anything, something. I know that's graphic, but the point is when you give a context to something, and then the year simply supports that, it doesn't matter if you remember the year or not. What you're remembering is the context of what was happening during that year, or whether it was a war, or what was happening in that season. Who was in charge? Was Rome in charge? Was Babylon in charge? All these things are important because it helps you connect the events. What was happening in Israel's history, or church history, or whatever else it was, and why that matters. So that's why the date matters, and why the world events occurring at that time matter. Okay, and then the purpose. Why was the book written? Like, why did Jonah even write this? And why was it included like it was in the holy writings of the Old Testament? Is the purpose of the book stated clearly? Sometimes it's very clear why a book was given. Other times it's not. You have to discern that from other places, other passages of Scripture, or just other places in general, like knowing history and so forth. So again, in working on this historical background, which Bible study tools, which you can find in the handbook book, chapter 4, pages 46 to 54. I think over here it said 49 to 52. So chapter 4 is a little bit longer, but it specifically should be on those pages right there. Did you use, and what did you learn about the tools? So that can be answered right here. So you just do that. So that gives you more space to answer about that. So you're going to demonstrate that you actually learned to use some Bible study tools, or if you didn't learn to use them, that you showed that you can use them right there. Okay. Remember, a Bible is not a Bible study tool. It's just the Bible. Very important. Bible study tool has to be something not the Bible. So I think that's it. Guys, have a great time. Email me or Facebook me if you have any questions whatsoever about this assignment. It should be quite straightforward, simple, and hopefully fun. Talk to you soon. Bye.